How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So today we're talking about Hector Neris and debating on whether or not the Yankees should actually sign him. If you haven't heard, Josh Hader landed with the Houston Astros on a, 5-year, $95 million deal, the biggest relief pitching free agent contract in history. And then Robert Stevenson went to the Los Angeles Angels on a $33 million deal, $11 million per season. So the Yankees miss out on two of the top remaining bullpen arms, and Hector Neris is one of the remaining ones. Obviously, Jordan Hicks signed a new contract to try to be a starter. Nerys is probably one of the better remaining relief pitchers available. We're going to discuss his value. Now, it's important to note that he did reject an $8.5 million player option for the 2023 season, or 24 season rather. The Astros obviously decided to go with Hader for their own reasons, and Nerys remains available. And, he has 14 innings of playoff experience, which is a little bit, nothing crazy, but at least he's been to a World Series. At least he's been to a high leverage situation and performed last year coming off his best season, now 34 years old. We'll debate I'm against it. I'm against signing Hector Neris. This is my reasons. Ryan has more favorable reasons, the pros and cons of this scenario. But, Ryan, before we dive into it, how do you do today, my friend? And what are you thinking about Hector Neris as an asset for the Yankees?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I'm doing great. There's a lot of football on today. It's a good day for sports. And, as we get through the NFL playoffs, we're getting ever closer to pitchers and catchers reporting and baseball taking the center stage as the biggest event in sports. So really excited for that. But when it pertains to Hector Neris, I do believe Hector Neris would make this bullpen a lot better. I think, in fact, he brings a couple of things that the Yankees desperately need. And not a couple, I'm going to say a few things. It's going to be more than two. First and foremost, he has excellent damage prevention. He had a 329 expected weighted on base average on contact, which for a layman's terms, you can just simplify that to just damage contact. How often do you give up hard contact that, will result in home runs or extra base hits or stuff of that nature? We adjust for launch angles as well. So we know a hard hit ground ball is less favorable for a hitter than a less hard hit, but still a well-struck line drive, right? A 100-mile-per-hour ground ball to the shortstop is hit harder, but I'll take the 95-mile-per-hour line drive towards right field because that has a better chance of dropping for a hit. With that being said, Neris is a fly ball pitcher, and I do have concerns about that in the American League East, but he's been able to maintain the home runs in a ballpark like Houston's, and Houston isn't, the most pitcher-friendly ballpark in the world. Obviously, you have the Crawford box in left field. A big thing that Hector Neris has worked on with the Houston Astros that's made him better is that he's added some vertical ride to his fastball. They've upped his release height. It has given him a fastball it's really good. It gets a lot of whiffs. Last year got a 29.1% whiff rate. He's able to throw it in zone a good amount too, a 54% zone rate. And the damage contact against 354 ex-Wilbekin, again, that's really good. That's above average. It's a really good fastball. I know it lost a tick of velocity this past year, and that's definitely a bit concerning, but it was able to actually perform better than it did last year despite the declining velo. As for a splitter, it's his money pitch. It's his go-to pitch. It's always been his best pitch, but in previous years, he hasn't been able to lean on other pitches outside of the splitter, and it's left him vulnerable. If you guys aren't aware of kind of what Kevin Gausman's flaw is, and he's a splitter kind of guy, it's that he can leave the splitter over the plate and give up a lot of line drives. That happened to Hector Neris a lot in Philly, and it left him very susceptible to damage contact, and it's why he was in and out of that reliever role. He was constantly giving up home runs, giving up big hits, but with the four-seam fastball, it gives him another pitch to go to keep hitters honest, and this splitter is gross. I mean, it gets negative inches of induced vertical break, meaning it's dropping a ton, and it's got a 284 ex-Wilbekin, again, damage contact metric. It's not allowing damage contact, and a 42% whiff rate. So the arsenal, the two-pitch mix is really good. He also has a sinker he can work in against right-handed batters, and they chase 42% of the time against the pitch, so he can throw it down and in, and batters are going to swing out of their shoes to try to get to that pitch, which is going to result in a lot of weak contact and a lot of just poor swing decisions. Whenever you get batters to swing at pitches that shouldn't be, when you get batters to swing at the wrong pitch, you're doing something right. That's what you can almost simplify pitching to. And then for the other reason, he's durable, right? Like he threw 68 in the third innings this past year. He's consistently been a guy who can come into a lot of games. He's been like top 3 in appearances out of the bullpen in the last 3 years. And the final thing, and this isn't a data point, Alex, there's no number behind this. There is nothing to go, there's no fan graphs, no baseball savant, there's no nothing. It's the fact that he is an emotional guy on the mound, and I think the Yankees need to have cojones this year. The Yankees need to have a team attitude that I think pulls them together a little bit more. I'm sick and tired of other teams having champagne celebrations at Yankee Stadium. In 2018, who celebrated their AL East title? The Red Sox. Where? At Yankee Stadium. When the Red Sox went to the ALCS, where'd they celebrate it? At Yankee Stadium. In 2019, I know we got walked off in Houston. In 2020, we didn't have a home field at all. The Yankees didn't play in Yankee Stadium in the postseason. But in 2021, also didn't play Yankee Stadium in the postseason. But 2022, the Astros, they're dancing on your field. Our field, Alex. Our field. In 2020, even in the postseason, the Rays would come to Yankee Stadium. It beat the crap out of the Yankees. The Yankees need to have a team attitude that I think ups the tempo in terms of competitiveness, in terms of just saying, nah, we're not going to let another team, like, we're not scared of the Astros. The Rays can't show up and just slap us around the field without us, bouncing back and rebounding and winning tough games and stuff like that. How many times have the Yankees trash talked and won a game? I mean, every time we have an incident with the Yankees, like showing up and showing out, they lose, right? The Mets situation where Stain's like showing off to Lindor, and then, there's a little bit of a scuffle. We lost the game. Lindor hit a third home run. Are you kidding me? Right? In 2021, right? The Yankees and Red Sox are going at it, and the Red Sox beat us in the postseason. This past year, the Red Sox, who finished in last place, showed up to Yankee Stadium, swept the Yankees, and Alex Cora threw a champagne shower in the clubhouse, and then they finished in last place. That can't happen. I'm tired of it. I'm not laying that. I don't want that to keep happening to the Yankees. If teams try to disrespect us, I want us to beat them. I'm not saying throw at them. Don't do that. I don't want free bases. We don't want suspensions. We don't want stuff like that. But I want to win games, and I want to be able to beat teams that have talked the talk against us. There's no reason why we haven't beat the Houston Astros in, 10 years, right? In 10 years of postseason play, the Astros have mollywopped the Yankees. There's no reason why that in my lifetime, the Yankees are 0-3 in playoff series against the Boston Red Sox. The Yankees need to have, for lack of better terms, the Yankees need to have some balls, and I think Hector Neris definitely brings that to the table.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's always good to have personalities, and here's my take on it. I don't think that, Hector Neris being excited on the mound is going to make a significant difference between us winning a World Series and losing it. I think, it's obviously a benefit, but here's my fear about Hector Neris. Now, look, you can always have good bullpen arms, and the Yankees consistently churn out really good pitchers that are basically either forgotten or no one expects them to have any value. 10 years, $10 million, because like a realistic deal for Hector Neris is going to be 2 years, $20 million, so $10 million per season at 34 years old. I just don't see the necessity of signing a player like this who has 14 innings of postseason experience, has nothing to write home about. I just don't see the benefit of having a 34-year-old. He'll be 36 when his contract expires, and he only has really one great season over the past couple of years. So, for example, 1.71 ERA this past year, 68.1 innings. This is the same exact situation that I look at with like a guy like Blake Snell. It's a different scenario, but you're buying at the highest value right now. You're buying Hector Neris at 34, coming off his best season. Can you expect him to run that back? I'm not necessarily so sure. And for what it's worth, during the postseason, he's been freaking terrible. He pitched last year 8.1 innings for Houston in the postseason. He had a 6.48 ERA. He has a collective 4.40 ERA in the postseason over 14.1 innings, so he has a little bit of experience, but he's not been very good. So, yes, the energy, I see that being a benefit, but I also question whether or not he actually has the cojones to pitch in the postseason. So, that's kind of one objection that I would make. Now, looking at, obviously, guy produces pretty solid strikeout numbers. He's a low ground ball guy, only 31.8% ground ball rate last year. So, he does walk. He did walk 4 batters per 9, which is, not great, but you can kind of skirt around that if you generate rather weak contact. But I'm a little concerned about the low ground ball rate, and Yankee Stadium being a fly ball kind of stadium. You put that thing in the air to right field, and you never know what's going to happen. So it does concern me a bit. I just don't think, like, if you look at his averages over the last 5 years, for example, the 1.71 ERA stands out as his best season, so you'd be buying at a high. His ERA in 2022 was 3.72, and the last time he had an ERA sub 3 was back in 2019. So in between then, he never had an ERA below 3.63. So, I feel like we've gotten more value out of Ian Hamilton, or Clay Holmes, or guys that are much cheaper than $10 million per season. In fact, I'd rather put like Will Warren in the bullpen, give him some opportunities to get experience, and I think he'd actually be equivalent, if not better, based on the regression I anticipate. I do not think that Hector Neris is running back a 1.71 ERA. He's been poor in the postseason over the 14-inning sample size, which is small enough that you can say, he could bounce back and have a good performance, and it would be forgotten. But I'll ask you this, Ryan, to get your take on it. based on his averages from the last 5 years, he's been wildly inconsistent. I think that we managed to get, and you I know you're one of the bigger proponents of Matt Blake. We managed to get a lot of value out of guys that people don't see value in. And I feel like spending $10 million on a player who's likely to regress anyway, I feel like we can get similar value from another player at a much cheaper price point. You know, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I have no doubts about it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, the guy with the 1.71 ERA last year is not going to regress. Like, there's no such thing as a median outcome 1.7 ERA pitcher. That doesn't exist at all, right? Like, that does not exist. And projection systems are a little bit, they're a little bit bearish on Neris. They have a 4.09 ERA for Steamer, and that's definitely a concern. But I do believe in his ability to overperform that mark. I believe that he's going to overperform their 1.22 home run per 9 projection of him. But I do understand why people would have, pause about, hey, this is a guy who's coming off a year where he had a lot of really good fortune, a 219 BABIP, a 90.5% left on base rate, a home run to fly ball rate that wasn't, particularly high either. And would that number go up in Yankee Stadium, right? It was 8.6% this past year. Is it going to go up again? And if it does, that's going to mean more home runs and more runs being driven in and fewer converted holds and fewer converted saves and stuff of that nature. And if they were to say, all right, we have Neris at $10 million a year for 2 years or Middleton for $5 million a year for 2 years, how can I sit here and argue that they shouldn't sign Middleton, right? Like, is Middleton half of the pitcher that Neris is? I don't think so. So that's definitely a fair point. But I guess my overall, the thing that I really think brings Hector Neris value here is the fact that his skills have gotten better. Like, there are things that he's done in terms of preventing damage contact that should stick going into next year. I know that's a little more, that stuff is a little less sticky year to year than just dominant strikeout rates or dominant command. But I do believe that the skills are going to stick. You could argue, again, like, there are other relievers you could get better value for, but I'm not sure. I can't read the market and say, like, Middleton's only asking for $5 million a year for 2 years. In fact, I think if he was asking for that, the Yankees might have already signed him, but I could be wrong. And ultimately, for the Yankees here, like, would Matt Blake not just excel with Hector Neris the same way that he would excel with any reliever, right? Like, if we're going to get more value out of a lesser reliever, would we not be able to elevate Neris' profile that same way? And I think the Yankees are kind of missing, not missing because they have a lot of, very durable guys in terms of, like, guys who are going to be really good next year in the bullpen. But I kind of want another just stable guy. Like, I can throw him in the 9th inning and I'm fine. Like, I don't know if I'm being a little bit too, like, stuck on past performance perhaps, but I look at Hector as I say, all right, if it's, a big game and it's the 9th inning, I can go to Neris as my closer. I don't know if I can go to Keenan Middleton to close the game out yet. The thing I really like about Wandy Peralta, and I think you appreciated this about Wandy too, was that it really didn't matter the leverage of situation. Wandy Peralta could get out of it. He could close out games. He could bail other relievers out. He could come in the 7th inning, the 8th inning. He could throw multiple innings. He could kind of do whatever you needed him to do. I feel like Hector Neris has that same playability and that same flexibility as a reliever, where I'm not necessarily sure that Middleton has it. I don't think that, closing the 9th inning is necessarily impossible for every pitcher to handle, but we've seen it before where, like, certain guys just can't handle the 9th inning for some reason. I remember Chad Green, if you remember in 2021, for some reason, you would throw him in the 9th inning and he was just shaky. It was always weird. He could come in the 8th inning with, like, 3 runners on and get out of it, but 9th inning, nobody on, and, the Yankees are up by 2 runs, and Chad Green, at least has the tying runner on first or something of that sort. So I feel like Neris has the tighter distribution of outcomes. I think that it's a safer bet that he's going to be good next year than a guy like Middleton. You're the Yankees. You kind of have the money to spend. Why not, right? Like, is $5 million going to be a difference between them getting somebody and somebody else? Not necessarily, and they're not going to sign 2 relievers most likely. They already have Luke Weaver as their 8th reliever, and they have 6 guys in their bullpen that are probably going to make the team on opening day, barring any injuries. So I don't think they would bring in 2 guys and force themselves to, like, option Ian Hamilton or, like, option Scott Effross or something of the sort. Maybe they do not view Scott Effross as, like, major league ready right now in terms of his health. Maybe they think, hey, we want to take it slow, but nothing has indicated that they want to take it slow. It seems like he'll be on the roster on opening day. So I think if the Yankees are just going to get one more reliever, I think they should get the guy who they think is the best. And I personally think Neris has a case to be the best of that group and the most reliable and the most, like, closer ready and all that stuff. But if the price point's like, 2 years, like $28 million, something of the sort, I wouldn't pay that price. Like, I'm not paying $14 million for 2 years for a reliever. And I think you agree there. I'm more in, like, the $10 million a year, $8 million a year kind of range. I'm not doing anything more than $10 mil.
Yeah, I mean, look, It's something the Yankees could consider doing. A lot of the bullpen arms are now off the market, so he's one of the better ones. But, I do think that we can lean a little bit more on Tommy Kahnle. We're paying him. I do think Scott Efros is going to be ready to make a pretty significant impact with more than a full year under his belt after Tommy John surgery. So, we'll see. We'll see how these things develop. But I do think, I certainly wouldn't not like having that Hector Neris. I think that we could definitely use another bullpen arm that has experience and, coming off a really great year. It's never a bad thing. I'm more so like, I don't want to lock in $20 million into a player that I think is going to regress. Again, 2 years is what it is, not a big deal. But, next year, $10 million, and you need that to go and, push something over the hump, or, you're already thinking like, damn, like, some of our younger guys are stepping up and making an impact out of the bullpen. I see why the Yankees may want to save that money, but we'll see. This is definitely an interesting discussion. Always happy to hear your perspectives down below in the YouTube comment sections. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.